You don't need to tell them. You don't need to explain. You don't need to prove. Just show up and do the work. While they talk, you train. While they doubt, you build. While they sleep, you rise. The loudest in the room is rarely the strongest. The ones who truly win, they move in silence and let success do the talking. So if you're tired of the noise, of the excuses, of the endless opinions, it's time to shut up and win. Silence is strength. Sometimes the loudest person in the room is the weakest. They talk to be heard, not to be understood, but real power doesn't need volume. It needs presence. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is control. It means you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove your worth. You already know who you are. Silence gives you space to think, to plan, to rise. While others waste energy defending themselves, you can serve yours to win. You're not here to react to noise. You're here to move with purpose. And when you move, the world feels it. You don't need to announce your next step. You just take it. Powerful people listen more than they speak. They observe, they study, they learn, because silence reveals what noise hides. You see people for who they really are when you stop talking and start watching. You hear the truth when you're not busy trying to interrupt it. Silence is how you guard your energy. Not everything deserves your response. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the best way to win is not to engage. Not because you're scared, but because you're focused. And focus is a superpower. Let them talk. Let them doubt you. Let them mock what they don't understand. But don't let them pull you out of your peace. Your silence is not surrender. It's strategy. It's the calm before the storm, because when you finally move, it won't be noise, it'll be impact, and they'll know exactly who you are without you having to say a word. Let your actions speak. You don't need to broadcast your every move. You don't have to prove yourself with words. The world is already full of noise. What it's missing is action, results, proof. You don't have to tell people you're grinding. Show them. You don't have to explain your dream. Build it. When your actions are loud, your words can be quiet. People talk about goals all day. They say what they're going to do, what they should have done, what they would do if only things were different. But talk doesn't move mountains. Work does. Sacrifice does. Discipline does. While they talk, you work. While they debate, you deliver. And that's the difference. You want to earn respect? Don't demand it. Don't cry for it. Become undeniable. Let your consistency speak louder than their doubts. Let your execution crush their opinions. You're not here to be liked. You're here to lead. You're here to rise. And that happens in the silence of doing, not the noise of talking. People won't remember what you promised. They'll remember what you did. They'll remember the moments you showed up when it was hard, when you kept pushing after failure, when you didn't post about the grind because you were too busy grinding. That's what lasts. That's what sticks. The strongest people aren't the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who move with purpose, who let their results do the talking, who walk into a room and don't have to say a word because their presence speaks for them. Earn that presence. Build that strength. Every day you act, you cast a vote for the person you're becoming. You either build your legacy or you stay in your story. You either produce results or stay wrapped in reasons. Don't get caught up proving yourself to doubters. Show yourself what you're capable of. Let that be enough. There's a quiet confidence that comes when you live in alignment, when your actions match your ambitions, when your discipline speaks so loud that you don't need to explain your dream. It's written in your habits, in your decisions, in how you show up when no one's watching. The ones who achieve don't always have the most talent. They have the most grit, the most consistency. They get up early, stay up late, and keep going when the spark fades. They're not chasing motivation. They've built momentum. They don't need to post about the journey. They're too deep in it. Success doesn't come from saying the right things. It comes from doing the right things over and over again. You don't owe the world an explanation. Let your excellence explain it for you. Let your performance speak the truth that your voice doesn't have to. Let them doubt you. Let them laugh, but don't respond. Building. Don't argue. Rise. One day they'll stop laughing. One day they'll see what you were building while they were watching, and they won't need a speech, because the results will say it all. You don't need the spotlight to shine. Let your consistency be the light. Let your discipline create the fire. You're not working for attention. You're working for alignment. Every rep, every step, every silent win, it all adds up. And when it's time, it all explodes into impact. Let your actions speak. Let them echo through every room you walk into. Let them remind the world that real power doesn't scream. It works, it moves, it transforms. And in the end, that's what they'll remember. Not what you said, but what you built. Talkers stay stuck, doers grow. Some people spend their whole lives talking about change, but never lift a finger to make it happen. They recite dreams, like poetry, but live in the same cycle day after day. That's the difference between talkers and doers. Talkers stay stuck in the comfort of their words. Doers break comfort with action. Growth doesn't come from conversation, it comes from commitment. You'll hear it all the time. One day I'll start, someday I'll try, when the time is right, but those words are a trap. They're the lullaby of procrastination. Talkers put their future to sleep with excuses. Doers wake up before the world does and get to work. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They make the moment perfect by showing up. Talk is easy. It feels good. It sounds powerful, but it doesn't build muscle. It doesn't create opportunity. It doesn't open doors. That's what action does. You can speak about self-improvement all day, but until you do the work, nothing changes. Real transformation begins the moment you stop talking about it and start moving. You want confidence? It doesn't come from convincing others. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. And you can't keep promises if you don't take action. Talkers break their own word by never starting. Doers build self-respect one uncomfortable step at a time. They fall, they fail, but they move. And that's where growth lives, in the movement. Doers know growth is messy. It's not polished or pretty. It's sweat, silence, and solitude. It's failing in private and learning in the dark. Talkers want growth without struggle. Doers embrace struggle as the path to strength. They don't fear the grind, they trust it. Every time you act, you teach yourself that you are powerful. Every time you stall, you teach yourself that comfort is more important than change. You become what you practice. So if all you practice is talk, don't be surprised when nothing shifts. But if you practice discipline, effort, and focus, everything begins to rise. Talkers are obsessed with validation. They want people to hear their ideas, to admire their plans, to approve their potential. Doers are obsessed with execution. They want results. They want the internal win. They don't chase praise, they chase progress. Doers understand something talkers never will. The results don't lie. The results are honest. They show the truth about what you did when no one was watching. While talkers were explaining why they couldn't start, doers were stacking quiet wins. And eventually, those small wins speak louder than 1,000 speeches. You can't grow by watching others. You grow by doing the thing. Reading helps, listening helps, but only doing transforms you. You have to sweat. You have to show up on the days you want to quit. That's when growth grabs hold of you. Not in theory, but in reality. Look around. The people who inspire you, who've built something meaningful, they didn't get there by just talking about it. They moved, they acted, they tried, failed, adjusted, and kept going. Their words weren't louder, they were backed by action, and that's why they're ahead. You don't need more ideas, you need more follow-through. You don't need a perfect plan, you need bold steps. Talkers plan to grow. Doers grow through pain, through pressure, through presence. Every move they make is a brick in the foundation of their future. So ask yourself, are you a talker or a doer? Are you building or just describing blueprints? You can stay stuck in stories or you can rise in action, but you can't do both. Growth doesn't wait for words. It waits for the one brave enough to move without them. Be that one. Be the doer. Hustle in silence, win in public, and the real work is never loud. The grind doesn't need an audience. Hustle in silence because success is built in the shadows. It's the early mornings no one sees. It's the late nights no one talks about. That's where champions are made. Not in the spotlight, but in solitude. You don't need to announce every move. The world doesn't need a play-by-play of your progress. Let your discipline be your declaration. Let your actions write the story. Because when you finally win, it won't be because you talked about it. It'll be because you moved when no one else was watching. People love to post their ambition, but they rarely post the discomfort. They show the goal, not the grind. But it's the work you do when the camera is off that separates the average from the elite. Talk doesn't build legacy, work does. So get quiet and get serious. Silence protects your focus. When no one knows what you're building, no one can distract you. No opinions to entertain, no pressure to perform. Just you and the mission. You don't need applause to move. You need clarity, you need hunger, you need consistency. When you hustle in silence, you develop strength that doesn't depend on motivation. You train your mind to stay locked in. No likes, no views, no validation, just raw effort, just repetition. And that's exactly what builds mental toughness. Let them wonder what you're doing. Let them question your absence. While they're talking, you're building. While they're scrolling, you're sweating. And when it's time to show up, when your moment comes, you'll arrive with something undeniable: results. Every champion you admire had a season of silence, a stretch of time where no one saw the struggle, where there were no cheers, just choices. They weren't being noticed, they were being forged. That season of quiet is sacred, honor it. When you share too early, you invite noise. Everyone's opinion becomes part of your path. But when you keep it to yourself, the only voice guiding you is the one that matters, yours. That's how you move with purpose, not pressure. Hustle in silence because not everyone deserves access to your journey. This isn't about secrecy, it's about security. Protect your goals, guard your energy. Let your grind be your gatekeeper. Only results should do the talking. There's a strength in privacy. When no one knows your plan, they can't sabotage it. They can't steal it. They can't distort it. Keep your focus clean. Keep your spirit grounded. Keep your eyes on the goal, not on what the world thinks about it. Public wins come from private wars. You want to shine? Embrace the silence. That's where you develop grit. That's where you build resilience. You can't microwave greatness. It's slow, it's hidden, and it's worth it. Don't broadcast every workout. Don't tweet every goal. Just keep going. Let them guess. Let them think you're quiet. They won't see the sleepless nights, but they will see the strength that was built in them. When the results hit, let them ask how you did it. Let them wonder where you came from. And when they say, "I didn't see you working," smile, because that's the point. You were too busy earning to be explaining. Not every win needs a witness. Not every step needs applause. Your path is sacred. It doesn't need to be validated. It needs to be walked with intention, with discipline, and with humility. Silence is your armor. It shields your progress from distractions. It protects you from doubt. When you hustle without noise, you build confidence that doesn't depend on recognition. It comes from keeping your word to yourself. Remember, the loudest one in the room isn't always the strongest. Real power moves in silence. It grows in stillness. It acts when others talk. The one who doesn't speak often, that's the one to watch. The world doesn't respect noise. It respects proof. And you don't prove yourself with promises, you prove yourself with perseverance. So let your silence be your preparation and your results be your roar. You'll never regret working in silence, but you will regret wasting time trying to impress people who don't matter. Use that energy to build something real, something lasting, something undeniable. Your future is watching what you do in silence. Your legacy is being shaped by what you do when no one's looking. Hustle now, win later. And when the world finally sees what you've done, let them be stunned. Don't rush the reveal. Stay humble, stay hidden, and stay working. Because when the time comes, your victory won't need a speech. It'll speak for itself. Hustle in silence. Win in public. That's how legends are made. Discipline needs no announcement. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't need to scream for attention. It doesn't beg for recognition. It just shows up every single day. When you're tired, it moves. When you're unsure, it acts. It doesn't ask for permission or approval. It's not waiting to be seen. It's already working. You don't have to post about your discipline. You don't have to prove it to anybody, because real discipline is personal. It's between you and the promise you made to yourself. It doesn't need claps or comments. It needs consistency. The loudest person in the room is usually the least consistent. They talk a lot, but their actions fall short. Meanwhile, the disciplined one is already 5 steps ahead. Quiet, focused, relentless. That's real power. Discipline isn't dramatic. It doesn't wait for a perfect moment. It builds while the world is sleeping. It trains when no one is watching. That's why the disciplined win. They outlast everyone who was only in it for the moment. If you really have discipline, people won't need to hear about it. They'll see it in how you move, in how you walk, in the results you carry. That's the truth. Discipline speaks through results, not words. Most people want to be seen starting. Few want to be seen finishing. But the ones who finish, they're the ones who kept their mouth shut and their head down. They weren't in it for attention. They were in it for transformation. Discipline doesn't get excited by hype. It doesn't chase motivation. It builds its own momentum. Day after day, rep after rep, decision after decision, it becomes a lifestyle, not a temporary burst. You can fake talent. You can fake excitement, but you can't fake discipline. Because discipline leaves evidence in your habits, in your routine, in your results. That's how people know if it's real. Don't talk about how focused you are. Show it by what you ignore. Show it by what you sacrifice. Discipline isn't proven in the big choices. It's revealed in the small ones. What you eat, what you consume, what you tolerate. Every time you show up when it's hard, you're proving your discipline. Every time you say no to something tempting, you're building your edge. And you don't have to announce it, because it announces itself in your growth. Real discipline removes noise. It removes excuses. It removes distractions. You don't have to explain why you're unavailable. You're building something. Let your absence be your explanation. Discipline doesn't argue. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't try to justify its pace. It just moves forward, slowly, relentlessly. It's not here to impress. It's here to improve. You'll know you're disciplined when you don't need reminders. You don't need inspiration. You just go. You don't wait for the mood. You don't depend on circumstances. You make it happen because you said you would. The strongest people don't need to post their schedule. They live it. They don't need to record their grind. They feel it. They don't care who's watching. They care that they're better than yesterday. Discipline is silent, but its results are loud. While others are trying to convince the world they're doing the work, you're letting the work speak. You don't need a press release. You need progress. Everyone talks about goals, but discipline keeps showing up when the hype wears off. Discipline stays after motivation disappears. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Some people chase validation. Disciplined people chase growth. You'll never see them brag. You'll see them win. Quietly, completely, consistently. That's the difference. You're not supposed to feel like it every day. That's the point. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It only cares about what you said you would do. It only respects execution, not emotion. Stop explaining your grind. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them talk. When it's time, your results will speak with a volume no words could ever match. Stay silent. Stay sharp. Because when you walk in true discipline, you understand it doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need a stage. All it needs is you doing the work without applause, without noise, without excuses, just showing up every single day. Focus is loud in results, silent in process. Focus doesn't make noise. It doesn't need to. While others talk about what they're going to do, focus quietly gets to work. It doesn't announce the plan. It just executes. Day after day, moment by moment. When you're truly focused, people start asking, where have you been? And the answer is simple. You've been building. You've been creating. You've been sharpening. No noise, no distractions, just process. The world rewards results, not the process, but it's the silent, boring, disciplined focus that creates those results. Nobody sees the early mornings, the rejections, the repetition, but they see the outcome. And that's the power of focus. You don't need to convince people that you're serious. Let your consistency do that. Let your output prove it. Let your silence speak louder than any speech could. Focus never shouts, but it always finishes. Every great achievement began in silence. Every champion trained in private. Every masterpiece was crafted in isolation. That's where focus lives, away from the spotlight, buried in the process. Focus doesn't care about attention. It doesn't chase validation. It just locks in. It cuts the noise. It builds in the dark. And one day, when the work is done, the results will speak for themselves. People want the final product, but not the silent seasons it requires. They want the praise, but not the patience. Focus lives in those unseen hours. That's where the magic happens. That's where transformation begins. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's effective. Focus doesn't care how it feels. It doesn't need motivation, it just stays. When distractions call, focus declines the invitation and returns to the mission. True focus makes you unavailable. Not rude, just unavailable. To drama, to distractions, to anything that doesn't align with your vision. That's not selfish. That's strategy. That's ownership. You can't master anything if you're constantly switching paths. Focus is the discipline to say no, even to good things, so you can say yes to the right things. And that choice builds legacy. You won't always see instant results, but focus isn't about speed, it's about depth. It's about getting better, not just being busy. It's about going all in without needing applause. The deeper your focus, the clearer your vision. When you eliminate distractions, your purpose sharpens, your energy multiplies. You stop chasing everything and start becoming something. There's a reason the greats talk less and do more. They're focused, they're in the zone. While the world talks, they work. While others scroll, they build. Their results echo long after the noise fades. Focus doesn't multitask. It eliminates, it prioritizes. It decides what matters most and gives it everything. Not halfway, not when it's easy, but all the time. That's how empires are built, quietly. When you focus, you stop performing for the crowd. You stop looking over your shoulder. You stop explaining yourself. You trust the process. You stay committed to the work. People won't understand your silence. That's okay. They weren't assigned your vision. You weren't called to explain. You were called to execute. So protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. There will always be temptations to speak, to share, to prove. But focus doesn't prove, it produces. The more you lock in, the less you feel the need to explain. Your results will do the talking. Some will laugh at your silence until they can't ignore your results. That's how focus works. It plants in secret, it grows in private, and then it blooms unapologetically. Don't measure your progress by how loud it is. Measure it by how consistent you are, how committed, how clear. Because in the end, it's not the noisiest who win, it's the most focused. Stay low, stay locked in, stay working, because real focus doesn't need to be seen, it just needs to finish. And when it does, it'll be louder than anything you could have ever said. Confidence doesn't need to prove. Confidence doesn't need to raise its voice. It doesn't need to argue, flex, or fight for attention. Confidence walks into the room, and the room adjusts. It doesn't ask for permission, it already belongs. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't try to impress. It doesn't chase approval. It knows who it is, and that's enough. When you truly know your worth, you don't need applause to feel valuable. Confidence doesn't live in the mirror. It lives in your mindset. It's not about how you look, it's about how you carry yourself. It's built in the dark when no one's watching, and it shows up in the light without trying. You don't need to explain yourself when you're confident. You don't need to defend every move or justify your goals. People will question you, but confidence lets your actions speak on your behalf. Insecure people talk a lot. They fill the silence with noise, hoping someone will validate them. Confident people use silence as strength. They don't fear it. They use it to command attention without saying a word. Confidence isn't loud because it doesn't need to be. It doesn't interrupt others to feel seen. It doesn't dominate conversations to feel heard. It listens, it observes, and when it speaks, people listen because it's rare. Real confidence doesn't compare. It's not looking left or right. It's locked in on its lane. It cheers for others, not out of politeness, but because it's not threatened. Secure people want others to win too. You know why confidence doesn't prove? Because it's not performing. It's not trying to win people. It's trying to win within. It doesn't chase attention. It chases alignment. When you're confident, rejection doesn't shake you. It redirects you. Failure doesn't destroy you. It develops you. You don't crumble. You correct. You keep going because your belief is rooted deep. Confidence is unshakable because it doesn't depend on mood. It's built on truth. It's the result of doing the hard work, of facing the doubt, and of rising after every fall without making a scene. You don't need a crowd to feel strong. Confidence isn't about who claps for you. It's about who you are when no one's watching. That's where it lives. That's where it's built. Confidence walks away from drama, not because it's afraid, but because it knows its energy is too valuable to waste. It doesn't argue with fools. It doesn't prove anything to doubters. It simply moves. When you're confident, you don't need to prove you're right. You just stay right. Time will show the truth. Results will tell the story. And those who questioned you, they'll see soon enough. People confuse arrogance with confidence. Arrogance screams, confidence whispers. Arrogance needs to be noticed. Confidence already knows it's enough, even in silence. You'll feel it shift when you grow. When you no longer feel the need to defend your journey, your past, your choices, you'll just keep rising, quietly, consistently, unbothered. Confidence wears peace. It moves without panic. It creates without asking. It leads without needing to be followed. It doesn't beg, it builds. When confidence walks in, insecurity gets quiet. Not because of ego, but because of energy. Confidence doesn't lower itself. It lifts the standard. It holds the line. It doesn't settle for crumbs. You can feel real confidence. It doesn't have to be announced. It's in the way someone stands, the way they speak, the way they hold silence. You know when someone knows who they are? Confidence doesn't need validation. It's self-sustained. You can like it or not, it stays the same. You can praise it or doubt it, it doesn't flinch. Because it's not looking for approval, it's anchored in truth. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you step into your power. You begin to live, not perform. You begin to lead, not chase. You begin to speak, not beg. Confidence lives there, in the stillness, in the certainty, in the silence that speaks volumes. Winners don't complain, they conquer. Winners don't waste energy whining about the battle. They prepare for it. While others talk about how unfair life is, winners train, learn, and move forward. They know the world won't hand them anything, so they go and earn it. Complaining is the language of defeat. It keeps you locked in the problem, while winners focus on the solution. Winners don't ask, "Why me?" They ask, "What now?" They don't cry over closed doors. they knock on new ones. Winners understand pain is part of progress. They don't run from discomfort, they run into it. They know growth is never born from comfort zones. Every wound is a lesson, every scar is a badge of strength. You won't find winners sitting in circles of self-pity. They don't gather to gossip, they gather to grow. They surround themselves with people who push, challenge, and sharpen them. That's how they stay ready. Excuses are poison to a winning mindset. Winners don't blame their past, their parents, or their circumstances. They take ownership of every moment. Responsibility isn't a burden to them, it's a weapon. When life knocks winners down, they don't post about it. They bounce back, quietly, ruthlessly. While others look for sympathy, winners look for strategy. They don't get stuck in stories, they rewrite them. Winners know the world doesn't slow down for their feelings, so they build the emotional muscle to handle pressure. They don't break, they bend, they adapt, they overcome. That's resilience in motion. To a winner, obstacles aren't stop signs, they're checkpoints. Every no is fuel, every setback is redirection. They don't stop when it's hard, they stop when it's done. That's the mindset that builds legacies. Winners don't sit around waiting for the perfect moment. They create moments. They act without guarantees. They move without certainty because they trust in their preparation more than their situation. There's no victim mindset in a champion's heart. Winners refuse to surrender to negativity. They don't dwell on what went wrong. They learn, they adjust, they rise. They see losses as lessons, not limitations. When the crowd disappears, winners keep working. They don't need applause to keep moving. Their vision is internal. Their fuel is purpose. Their mission is bigger than any moment. Winners don't chase motivation. They build discipline. They know discipline will carry them through when passion fades. That's why they win, because they keep showing up when others quit. They don't fear the grind. They fall in love with it. While others avoid the hard days, winners embrace them. They know the grind is where greatness is formed, where character is carved, and where champions are built. Winners are silent in preparation and loud in results. They don't brag, they deliver. They don't talk about what they're going to do, they show you. That's the difference between noise and impact. When life gets unfair, winners don't fold, they adjust. They know fairness is not promised, but power is taken. So they don't wait for justice, they create it through action. Winners don't waste time proving their worth to people who don't see it. They focus on their vision, not the critics. They let their results speak louder than the doubters ever could. They understand that every setback is temporary, but quitting is permanent. So they hold the line. They stay in the fight, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Winners play the long game. They don't chase shortcuts. They invest in the process. They build foundations, not facades, because they're not here for claps. They're here for crowns. You won't catch a winner stuck in old stories. They evolve, they outgrow pain, they rise beyond limitations, they write new chapters because they believe the ending is still theirs to shape. In the end, winners don't need sympathy, they need space to build, to move, to rise. They don't complain about the storm, they become the storm, because that's what winners do. They don't fold, they don't whine, they conquer. At the end of the day, words mean nothing if your actions don't back them up. You don't need applause to keep going. You don't need validation to believe. What you need is that fire inside, the one that burns quietly but moves mountains. So walk your path with discipline. Let your work echo louder than your voice. Let your success speak in rooms you've never stepped into. You don't have to shout to be powerful. Just shut up, stay focused, and win in silence. Because real strength doesn't need to be seen. It just needs to be done.